What will Ottawa's plan to reduce its immigration department by 20% over the next 3 years due to an already backlogged system? Starting just a couple weeks from now, 3,300 jobs will begin to be cut in response to Canada's reduced immigration targets and budget pressures. That's the reason given for the job cuts. But several advocates and immigration experts have concerns. What does this do to an already backed up system or to those who are waiting to be processed? As of November of last year, Canada had more than 2 million applications in the queue, more than 1 million. So half of that was sitting in a backlog situation. So for a closer look, we've brought in Rick Lamanna, partner with Fragerman Law Firm and board member at the Canadian Immigration Lawyers Association. Good to have you with us this morning.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
Just to set up what this will do, I want to first of all let people know, how long does it typically take to process applications like a work permit or permanent residency? And then what will change once there's less staff?
So the processing time really depends on where the person is applying from. Typically, they can range anywhere from a few weeks to a couple months. Permanent residence can take quite a bit longer, which is normal. To your question, what this will do is I think it's fair to assume that people need to expect longer processing times across the board. So that's not just sort of people coming in on a work permit. It'll mean people already here looking to extend their status, people who were anticipating, let's say they've been selected to apply for permanent residence, and they think, okay, I'll have this status in, let's say, 8 to 12 months. That could be close to double, depending. So I think elongated processing times will be the result.
Well, and you know, a lot of people in this country, when you're born here, you don't have to go through this process. So it's worth explaining to people that time is of the essence here. It's not just inconvenient that you wait longer. Sometimes it means you have to book a ticket home.
That's right. It affects individuals. It affects businesses, of course, who are anticipating having certain skilled labor on the ground, when they need them. For those who are already here looking to extend their status, it could mean delays of months just to be able to go home and visit family, attend a wedding, go to a funeral. All of these things matter on a both individual and a business level.
Here's what I don't understand. We saw government officials last year come out and say, we apologize, the system is in crisis. A lot of it has to do with job shortages and that we can't get enough people to get this stuff processed. And now they've gone ahead and said they're cutting more people. How will these backlogs also affect people like employers or the court system?
So it definitely will have an effect on business. Businesses need to be prepared that things will take longer. So for them, it's sort of having a longer sort of runway. If you know you're going to need, let's say, an individual or a group of people, you need to plan ahead. The court system, I think, similarly, we're already starting to see the backlog increase, especially those for asylum claims. The government's assumption was that hundreds of thousands of people with their pathways sort of blocked to permanent residence would just pick up and leave. And I don't think it's going to happen as they anticipate. I think a lot of people are going to do what they can do to try to stay, and that would mean filing for asylum.
Yes, that is my next question. So without the extra staff, because it is a separate department that deals with asylum claims, how are we going to manage those? As you said, one pathway to citizenship is closed. You claim asylum. How will that affect asylum seekers and the department as a whole?
So if you look at the job cuts, what they've done is they've essentially gone back to their staffing levels just before the pandemic. A lot of the hires they made were temporary, contract, things of that nature. And that is largely the group, not entirely, largely the group that's being cut back. And so you're left with about 10,000 employees. So the question really becomes, are they going to shift employees in one area to handle, like you're mentioning, this sort of upcoming backlog? But then what does it do? It is a pie, right? So you take from one, you give to the other, so it remains to be seen, but I think it will definitely impact all levels of immigration processing, both the court system and the regular processing.
Plus, with the changes coming to our immigration laws and what happens to asylum seekers, this again contributes to part of that problem. Really quickly, in our national security screenings, foreign interference from last year, one of the things that came up is potential problems in screening during immigration. So with less staff, how is Ottawa ensuring that the immigration process screening is up to date and adequate?
So they're using a lot of AI-based tools to try to facilitate that. I think the issue is along with less staff, along with longer processing times with less staff, what type of decision making are we going to get? Right? It's not just about things are going to take longer, but will you see curious refusals? Will people get through that perhaps shouldn't? There are different departments that handle that from a security standpoint, but I think the point remains that with less people, it's just going to be very difficult to maintain that same service standard.
Really quickly before you go, what happens to asylum seekers while they're waiting?
They're here. They're here. They're able to work, but essentially they're in limbo. It's a temporary sort of stay until their application is adjudicated. So they're here and they're waiting for their application to be processed. And that could take quite some time, especially with the backlog.
Rick Lamont, I want to thank you for coming on this morning, answering our questions around the changes coming to immigration. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.